And welcome to our webinar. Today we'll have a very knowledge and insight packed webinar. If you're wondering who these people are, we're actually Sycom Integrated Solutions. We're based in the UK, in the north of England, to be precise. And this is one of the many webinars that we organize because we're passionate about sharing information. So just look out for us on our LinkedIn page. We're very active in talking about different things when it comes to cyber and emerging technology. But today we would be having our cybersecurity webinar based on two very important and relevant topic. One of them is identity and privilege access management. And the other one is artificial intelligence for cybersecurity. And if you are interested in cybersecurity, or you are in the cyberspace, or you are a cybersecurity enthusiast, I don't think you would be new to the term identity and privilege access management, because it's all about protecting the information or the systems that we have, and access management is related to how we protect that and setting principles. Then what probably would be new is artificial intelligence for cybersecurity. People would say, what are we talking about here? Because there are two terms that people always mix up. There's cybersecurity for artificial intelligence and artificial intelligence for cybersecurity. And what are we referring to here? The fact that we can use artificial intelligence, which is an emerging technology, to be able to improve our cybersecurity activities. So in this webinar, we would be speaking about artificial intelligence for cybersecurity and not the other way around, which is how artificial intelligence is causing a lot of problems for cybersecurity. So this is a very interesting topic to do. And then you will be wondering, who is this person that has taken charge and has not given time? Because I'm very eager to hear what we're about to say in this webinar. So my name is Felicia Omoediale Samuel. I'm a member of the of the Sycom crew. I'm a non-executive director with Sycom, and I wear a lot of hats outside the whole thing. Very interested in research and development, and I am also an industry-based cybersecurity risk practitioner. So today is not about me, so I'm just going to go straight. Three main, very good sections for today. So what I would advise, my personal advice, is don't sleep on any of the sessions so that you don't miss anything. But I know because you've signed up, you're not going to sleep. So get your coffee, get your Red Bull, whatever it takes that keeps you alive. Just do that. I'm going to talk very briefly about us. Then we're going to go into the main thing of today, which is the two topics. Now, when we talk about identity management, we are going to be looking at unlocking the power of identity and privilege access management. And when we are also going to be speaking about artificial intelligence, we're going to be sharing information about exploring the impacts of artificial intelligence on cybersecurity roles. Fantastic topics. The next slide is just to talk about generally how we operate in Sycom. Sycom Solutions is, I would say, it's a giant because it looks at multiple places. We're not just faced in one thing. We are involved in consulting, cybersecurity consulting, and emerging technology. We have our Sycom Academy, which is a lot of, we provide a lot of training. I think one of the passions that we have is to see people get upskilled in the right way so that they are able to take up cybersecurity job or technology related jobs. So we have a fully functioning Sycom Academy. We're also into resourcing, which means if, for instance, we have very good shining stars in our academy, we provide that leverage to be able to outsource such people to organizations that are looking for talented practitioners. Then also there's another area which we are heavily developing, which is Sycom Labs. I know we have Abdul, who is the CEO of Sycom. Abdul and myself are very, very, very much, I would say we are restless researchers who are in the industry. So Sycom Labs is one of the initiatives to be able to give industry-based practitioners an opportunity to be able to carry out research. And our research interest is in cybersecurity, of course, emerging technology like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and Internet of Things. So in the nutshell, that is us. And then also what we see here, these are not brownie badges. These are organizations that we have partnership with, either by providing them services or delivering services for them. So in a nutshell, that is Sycom. So enough talking about myself. Let's go into the next topic. So I'm going to be introducing our next speaker. His name is Sanya, and he's an engineer by profession. He would be presenting on the topic unlocking the power of identity and privilege access management. Now, when we approached Isaac, I would say it was a privilege to have him agree to do this presentation because he is a technical manager. I tried to pronounce that company name, Trinexia. Well, he would explain himself when he comes, but it's an African-based company. And he oversees the engineering unit, which means design, implementation, and he manages the enterprise level security solutions for their clients across industries and regions. So you see, he's not only going to be talking, context or concepts or information from textbook. He's been living the life for the past 9 years. So he's going to be sharing experience across this topic. Isaac is very well versed. In cybersecurity, you either have people who know or people who pretend to know. But he's not part of the people who pretend to know. Looking at his accolades of certificate, he's widespread, as in cybersecurity, network security, ethical hacking, professional certifications. In fact, his professional certifications actually beat mine. So that is why I bow at his temple this afternoon. And Isaac, I hope you're not laughing too much. One of his biggest dream or his mission, when a man has mission, it's really lucky. I would digress a bit. When ladies are looking for guys, they look for guys that have mission. This guy is on a mission, right? And his mission is actually to be able to secure data, help people work on their identity assets, and help introduce people into the emerging threat landscape that is always moving when it comes to cyber. So enough said. One thing I know about Isaac is that he loves to learn. He loves an environment that is very innovative. And also above that, of course, he's on my webinar, so it means that he loves collaborating. So Isaac, over to you. No pressure, but all I've said is true. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Felicia. I am still struggling to agree if all you say is true of me. The laughter is actually genuinely coming from my heart because I didn't know I was this in the first place. But thank you for your kind words and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on your time zone. It's an honor. Thank you, Sycom, for bringing us. It's really, really an honor. So when you're mentioning about collaboration, I think this is something we have to push as cybersecurity community experts because the bad guys are more united And that's why they tend to go deeper. Okay, the more we are united, it doesn't matter where you are, who you work for, the more we have a bigger robust community, the more we can take them out. Okay, and let's not stop there. So thank you very much. I really appreciate. Like you said, the company is pronounced Trinexia. Okay, it's very simple. Trinexia Africa, so the X is pronounced as if it's an S. Okay, thank you so much. So I'm not gonna, enough of me. We're gonna look into the, again, by the way, I feel a lot of pressure by that introduction. So forgive me if I shake a bit, okay? I will share my screen, and please feel free to, I know there's a part of it where we will, interact and ask questions. So let me get a thumbs up once you are able to see my screen, please. Okay, I can see one thumbs up. Excellent. I see a hand raised. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much. And I believe my audio is clear. So let's start from the beginning. We want to unlock the power, okay, of identity and access management as well as privilege access management. All right. Um, Cybersecurity experts start conversation by saying you can only secure what you know exists and what you see. So visibility and knowledge is very important. You cannot secure what you don't know. Okay. So and I'm happy Sycom is coming with this webinars and will be planning throughout the year to keep this interaction across the globe for us. So we will do more of a basic, all right, and then let's pick up with each other's experience. All right. So I'll delve into the presentation. I think what we have on our presentation are gonna be very quick. We'll be looking at the landscape, what's happening. Okay, just a few of background for us. We will look at what is actually a PAM, what is actually an IAM. Okay, in a very simple way, just so we can drive the points home and we can make it relatable, and then we will look at the two of them. How do they start? In a very simple manner, we are going to look at the two of them as a strategy, as a synergy. How can we bind the two forces to be more secure? And we'll look at few benefits that our businesses stand to, gain from that. We'll look at the best practice, very few, and then very few key takeaways, and then we'll have a time for interaction where you can maybe drop a question, or you can, depending if you can unmute to talk, and you can ask your question. Okay. So let's get started. Let's get started. Good. So now let's look at the landscape today. Organizations are accelerating faster to digital transformation. They are embracing cloud services. They want to enable and allow people to work remotely from everywhere around the world. So it means we do have an interconnected system in one place, right? Now, what that does is that it shifts the cyber threat landscape, and it's now becoming even more complex and really aggressive, right? Now, what makes it that is we have seen developments recently, okay, around the risks that is tied to credential-based attacks. Okay, a research shows that over 80% of the successful breach you hear on news, on on channels, or wherever community magazines you study, is involves at the heart of it a stolen credential. Okay, how massive is that? What percentage of the budget of cybersecurity globally now is accrued to 80% reason for a breach? That's number one. So these credentials are stolen. The credentials in some cases are reused. Okay, we understand as IT people. Um, I want to make my life easy, so I've got access to maybe 20 servers, and maybe some switches and some routers. People tend to reuse passwords. Okay, that's one way. And in some cases where people try to make things a little bit different, if they want to make the life of the attacker quote unquote difficult, they tend to go through weak passwords because then they want to have multiple passwords. Now, that leads us to an increased insider threat, all right? Whether it's malicious insiders or a compromised account, okay, by an external, actor. So that's number second thing that we see in the threat landscape. Now, we have seen, of course, ransomware, supply chain attacks, where cyber criminals increasingly they target infrastructure and a very neglected part, third-party vendors. Okay, some of them have privileged access to critical systems, and this set of people, most often than not, you see organizations gives them a VPN or some form of remote access, or you're good to go, shoot and work, right? Now, that also leads to another dimension where we have sophisticated phishing and social engineering attack. Remember, the human beings will always and have always been the weakest link within our approach, right? It's the human being. Someone can be greedy, someone can be convinced, someone can be overexcited about something and then falls a victim. Then another thing is we see cloud misconfigurations because people now are moving to the cloud, and you see services hosted by the various big ISP players, and you have multi-cloud environments, and you could see misconfigurations. You could see credentials that are federated and have access to those various, hosted services by different ISPs. All right. Now, why does IAM and PAM matter for us? Now, because we know that at the end of it, when we are able to put our hands and our house together, we will be able to reduce attack surfaces completely by enforcing identity verification and least privilege access for all our users to all critical systems. Okay, and with our PAM, we'll get to see that we will be able to actually provide proactive security controls, visibility, very important, over these sensitive administrative accounts, and be able to mitigate really high risks. Okay, we're not even talking about the regular risks, okay, the low risks, the medium. No, we're talking about the really high risks. Why? Because of the immense power that is embedded in these credentials as themselves. Okay, so moving on, we would see that we need to be a little bit smarter in the way we do things. Okay, and it starts with this kind of community interaction, collaboration, learning from one another. Okay, now let's look at identity and access management in a very simple way. It's simply a framework, okay, or of policies, processes, and technologies that you put together with one goal. You want to ensure that individuals, mark my word, individuals, okay, have appropriate access to the required technologies or systems or applications. Okay, it's simply the framework that binds our policies and our processes together that is able to say Isaac as an individual has access to one, two, three sensitive um you know critical systems within the IT estate or the infrastructure, the network. That is what identity and access management is all about. Okay, looking at the people who is now from the your cybersecurity knowledge, we're talking about the subject. Okay, that which acts on an object. All right, so the focus on IAM is actually the subject, the human being, and what he or she has access to. Now, the core components of identity and access management, this can be further increased depending on the kind of engagement you're having. But for the fundamental growing up and building our knowledge, it starts with, first of all, the identity management. So we are focusing on Isaac. Okay, we are focusing on Abraham. We are focusing on people. We want to manage them. What do we mean by that? We want to do proper life cycle management. From the day an identity is created with a username and a password, right? Those two parameters, we want to make sure that we actually manage it. Managing it here means we want to take care of its onboarding to the infrastructure or to the estate, IT estate, its continuous management, and when it is time, the offboarding. All right. Now we want to do that very carefully. We want to do that very strategically because you see organizations employ Mr. A as a network engineer. Perhaps Mr. A developed an interest and started, software development over time, or he has started, inclining himself towards the cybersecurity space, and there is an internal opening, and Mr. A put on his, application and is granted that new opportunity, meaning Mr. A has access to network engineering resources on day one of his appointment or contract with the company. And over the years, maybe 1 year down the line, he's got access to a new set of systems, right? Now, how do you manage that? How do you ensure we don't have privilege creep? We don't have excessive privilege on Mr. A. How do we make sure in a systematic, automatic, also user friendly way carry out a user management for Mr. A, that he is no longer here and he is here. All his accesses here are deprovisioned and he's got new access to this. Now, that's our major concern here. Whether it's an Active Directory services, whether it's a federated IDP that we have, or the on-premises where you have Active Directory hosted by, whether it's Microsoft or some Oracle system, we want to make sure we deal with that carefully. Now, what's our focus? Number one is authentication. Okay, in the verification, that Isaac would make a claim and say, I am Isaac and this is my password. For example, we want to make sure that we carry out proper authentication and verification, so we are certain this is Isaac. Okay, now we want to make sure that when we allow Isaac into the system, we want to give him authorization to only what he needs. Least privilege model built into the system, ground up. Okay, this is strategic uh, because if it is built that way, we are able to curtail and take care of advanced problems tomorrow. Okay, so having authorization box in one place, this actually maps out an access to specific resources. And we are all in this space. We've got regulators, we've got requirements, industry best standards, and depending on where you practice or the industry you practice, you need to be compliant with some certain regulation. Then we want to be able to ensure you meet those regulatory requirements with confidence. So this is all about identity and access management. We put this together around Isaac, around Abraham, around a human being, and some assets that he or she has. Okay. Now, moving on to PAM. Okay. Moving on to PAM. PAM is a little bit away from it because the focus of a PAM, privilege access management, is actually the objects. I mentioned that the IAM focuses on the subject, the human being, the one body. The PAM focuses on the objects, those items, those username and passwords as well, that are no longer as subject by law of first mention, but they are actually an object that the subjects will now use. So in a very simple way, privileged access management focuses on monitoring and controlling this elevated, I'll call them, access to critical systems and sensitive data. Okay, how do we simplify it? With every piece of hardware and software today deployed in your production or your test environment, your entire IT network, there is at least a minimum an account with which that system is set up, okay? Whether it's an OS or it's an application, okay? Take for example, you have a Microsoft server. There is a default administrative account. What you do with that after now, it's whole different ball game, all right? You have an Active Directory. There is a domain administrative account. You have a Nix machine, whether it's Linux, Fedora, CentOS, Ubuntu. You've got the default root accounts, okay? Those system accounts or system level accounts that could actually do and undo. They can literally do everything, okay? Now, this is the focus of PAM. PAM says, I've got this privileged account here. I need to, first of all, secure this account. I want to monitor its usage and I want to control how it is used. Okay. Now, the baby steps, if you look at for PAM, is the core components. Again, it's the discovery of privilege account. Okay. We need to have, again, starting with what? Visibility. We need to have a robust technology that is able to come and say in advance, we've got this privileged accounts on our Active Directory, for example, on our local servers, okay, on our work group servers, whether those other ones are not joined, of course, to your domain or DMZ servers. We have applications that use hard-coded credentials, and in some specific, maybe for example, a C sharp, right? You've got hard-coded credentials. Depending on the architecture of the application, most probably it will be in the web.config, where you would see a connection string that it defines a database, or some third-party system which the application interacts. So what I'm saying is, you've got the domain admin accounts, you've got local server accounts across various systems, you've got accounts that are Cisco enabled accounts, for example, across your Cisco devices, right? You've got firewall that has root accounts. You want to make sure you discover this, and when you do the discovery, the first thing you should do is to securely vault them. Okay, it's a generic term, vaulting. Many technologies use that. Okay, it's generic. It's the concept of having a most secure environment, a digital vault, I'll rather call it, and you store all these credentials there. Number one. Okay, while you're doing that, we will now come and marry it with our identity and access management to make sure we are granting access only to the people that need those credentials. Why? We want to make sure that the usage of these accounts are regularly monitored without any human activity or intervention. Automatically, that sets in session management. Session management goes beyond just monitoring. Okay, I like to build 3 or 4 things around it. Number one is the session should be isolated. Okay, I am seated in Lagos, Nigeria today. What happens if Mr. Abdul gives me an access to his system in UK? I have a laptop, right? Or some workstation or MacBook, whatever endpoint I'm using, and then I connect to it. Now we want to isolate the session that are privileged from Isaac's laptop or whatever device he's using to the sensitive and critical assets in the data center. Very important. Now, when we do that, we are going to be able to step in time and provide the monitoring. Now, the monitoring comes with real-time monitoring, I mean, such that Abraham could be assigned to watch my back in real time. Number two is we want to make sure this session are recorded, and then we could always reference it for either audit or forensic investigation or learning purposes. Okay, that's very important. Now, we don't want to go there straight. We want to make sure that the access is just in time, meaning the strategy for cybersecurity experts today, we should begin to think from zero standing privileges, ZSP. Okay, we move away from this model that says Isaac is an administrator in our company, he is an employee, we trust him, then we give him persistent access. No, there is no point for persistent access to Isaac, because Isaac could not be Isaac behind the PC if you're not seeing Isaac, right? It could be any other person. It could be someone compromising Isaac's access. So because of that, we build policies and risk-based context around Isaac. So we provide him just-in-time access, meaning his access is temporal. Okay, he's temporal. We allow him, we connect, he comes into the system, he uses the system, but we actually give him only a temporal credential or temporal access. Very important. Now the purpose of that is we are trying to make sure those privileged, you know, tokens or privilege that he has in a session are revoked after the necessary work is done. Okay, so he should not go to sleep in his house having a admin access on that server. No. Okay, we want to do that, and we will do that automated way. We will do that with system that learns and understands Isaac. Now at the end of it, of course, we want to make sure when the auditors come, just as in the case of identity and access management, when it is time for reporting, we're logging every action. Okay, we are logging every action taken. We are providing report. We are providing report for whatever that is executed by that user, and there's proper non-repudiation. So Isaac cannot wake up in the morning and say, listen, I wasn't the one. Okay, because we could prove that you were the one. All right, now it's very important, because at the top of it, cybersecurity aims to secure human life. All of us secure the human, right? So now when we do that, we want to make sure that is built in a proper way. So let's look at the two of them. Okay, we've seen each of them, how they stand, what are their core components, right? Now how do the two of them stand? Do they compete with each other? Do they fight against each other? Do they complement each other? Okay, now you tend to see quite a lot of conversation around the IAM versus PAM. Okay, sometimes even at the point of budget in organizations. um, of course, cybersecurity team or information security team or the enterprise IT security team, depending on what it is called in your organization, primarily will say I am responsible for privileges and access. Okay, so it sits with them, it's express. But then when it comes to identity and access management, there's a bit of a shift to the left. Reason because the scope. So IAM looks at everybody in the organization. I mean, from the first person to the last person, the CEO, the MD, the IT administrators, the developers, um, the consultants, third-party contractors. How about the marketing team? How about the sales team? Okay, and interns. So all this one body that have some form of ID in an organization, IAM focuses on them. That is number one shift. However, your PAM is going to focus only on the privileged or elevated users. Okay, just for the sake of clarity. And what are the access type? For IAM, it doesn't care. It only knows that there is a human being that has an access. I am going to look at that general access. But for privileged access management, the focus is only on elevated users. Okay, those that use the root. Okay, so we're not too necessarily gonna be focusing on the marketing team. Okay, and someone at the help desk, the receptionist, for example, in the office. Okay, the receptionist doesn't necessarily hit the databases with SA or system on Oracle, for example. So we will not bother with them. We will bother with the few individuals that are IT administrators. All right, that's number one. And when we are looking at our concern from a concern point, uh, because it's general for IAM, is who has access to what? That's the question. What access do you have to what? Okay. Now, regulation compliance will ask further question. Why? Okay. And then that being said, we are looking at the risks also, okay, that are tied to those assets. For the user who has an elevated access, primarily by law of first mention, his or her access is elevated. That's our concern from PAM. And what about the risk levels? What about the risk level? For the IAM, it stems from medium, in fact, from low to focusing around the medium. Then your PAM focuses 100% on those who have high risk. Okay, those who have high risk. All right. Now, when we look at it like that, we're able to see that the IAM tools will be doing things around single sign-on, around multi-factor authentication, while your PAM will be focusing around vaults. Okay, how do they do the vaulting in that organization, or how do they do session monitoring? Okay, and general access to critical credentials. Okay, now moving on, we get to see.
Okay, Mr. Isaac, your slide is not on.
Oh, sorry about that. Let's check again. There was a glitch. Sorry. Can I get a thumbs up if you can see it now? Sorry, I apologize. I think there was a glitch on my side. Excellent. Now, so just before that interruption on my side, we were talking about basically the side by side how they stand, right? The high risk, the medium, and how the focus is, right? Now, moving on is how do the two of them start, and how or where can we achieve the greater goal of securing our organization, starting with securing the people. Okay, how do we do that? Number one is when the two of them come together, we would be able to build what I call unified access control. Okay, enough of silos, enough of everybody doing his thing, is enough of digital transformation in an organization, the digital channels that say, listen, our own is we want to make sure people get into the applications, people get into our services. Because if you look at critically the IAM, you would see that there is a few broken categories there where you have the focus on the employee or the workforce, and you have another leg looking at the customers, where you hear things like customer or consumer identity and access management. We want to make sure we take care of that. Number one. Two, this unified access control will help us to ensure that every user in our organization has the right or the appropriate level of access required. And it will actually, at the end of the day, tighten our PAM control. Okay, so we built the control, we have where the users reside, and we tighten those control. Then together, we will enforce consistent policies. Okay, it's not about everybody doing what they want in the organization. No, we've got amazing information security policies, strategic one built by our organization from ground up. We want to make sure that we enforce that through this synergy. Number one. Then the second thing is that we will have a better visibility. Okay, and of course auditing, because our IAM is going to lock the general user activity, everything, who have access to what, how, where. Okay, we have that log kept for us, right? And our PAM will capture the detailed sessions that are established with privileged accounts. All right, now the detailed session here is very critical in that we want to not just be able to come and tell us in a dictative manner that, hey, I have seen that Abraham connected to a Linux machine and he did 1, 2, 3. No, we are saying we build it in such a way that we are going to go ahead of Abraham and we will say, when Abraham connects to a Linux server and he will connect with the root level or as a root account, we will not give Abraham the root password. Our PAM will be between Abraham as an identity or as a subject and the root account as an object. And we will do that identity mapping and say a user called Abraham logged onto this platform and connected to this server with this account from this IP address. He started the session at this particular time. This is exactly what he did. Not only that, proactive security control from your PAM will say, even though Abraham is authorized to connect with that root, he should not execute this kind of commands. So we get to do a block listed list of commands that Abraham, though he is there as a root, he cannot execute. Now, we're not just denying Abraham. Okay, by the way, Abraham is my friend, so why should I deny him? Not only that, I am going to be enforcing the consistent security information policy by the organization and say, should there be any reason that Abraham will violate that do not execute, then apply this kind of control. Things like suspend the session, freeze everything for him, terminate the session, and everything. Okay, then I could call Abraham to order because he's working with me as an insider or as an inside person, the contact person in that particular project. So I'll call him to order. This is what we have. Now, what leads us to is a stronger cybersecurity posture in the organization. We're getting to where we will minimize attack surfaces from both ends, whether it's external or internal insider threats, okay? And we will be able to reduce this very high risks through, first of all, least privilege and just-in-time access principles that are merged from the synergy we have between our IAM and our PAM. Now, what that does for us is that it will enhance our zero trust, architecture. That framework that we all are looking forward to say, do you know what? We want to validate every access, every step of the way. We just don't want to just give single sign-on that this user can connect to anything. At every point, we want to put a security check. How about we want to be sure that it's Isaac that is seated on the screen or on the in front of a PC and he's working, and then after 30 minutes, is it still Isaac? Maybe Isaac walked to the restroom to take to ease himself, and then when he comes back, is it still Isaac? Built in real time verification and validation points, number one. And that will actually lead us to a point where the PAM now will limit the trust even after authentication, because it's very important. We want to make sure, so we don't want to, it's not like in a not good way that we don't trust you, no, but we want to limit the kind of trust we hand over to. Because listen, you that we trust could be a different person if it is in a hand of a bad actor, external bad actor. Okay, so we did not know it was Isaac, right? So we want to limit that. When we combine this together, it will actually enforce our continuous verification, granular access. That's very key to zero trust model that you are building around your organization. Okay, now what will this stand to benefit your organization? Number one is we would see a massive reduction in risk that are whether for the insider, okay, or the breaches that are coming from outside. We would see that by controlling and monitoring our privileged access, our IAM and our PAM would reduce the potential for both this malicious and accidental insider threats. Okay, now that would actually advance our auditing and monitoring capabilities to put it in an early detection of suspicious activities and with proper controls, we can manage that. Now, what that does for the organization is we have improved compliance to whatever standard our organization finds itself, okay, whether it's GDPR, whether it's SOX, whether it's HIPAA, depending on where you are. If you are in the banking and finance, PCI DSS, all those various regulations have touch points with people and the subjects, of course, and the objects that they use, privileged accounts. So we want to be able to improve that and enable, in fact, to some extent, and largely the goal is to get to a way where we could actually automate compliance with these regulatory frameworks. Okay, how about the regulators being able to even plug on and pick this, all right, from some central interface? And it's not about Isaac reporting to the regulator, but the regulator has visibility in real time to this. Okay, there are some issues that needs to be ironed out before we get there, but of course, a step at a time and a step in the right direction. And we want to be able to streamline our reporting and our audit trails, simplify the process. We want to demonstrate compliance doing all audits, whether it's internal, quarterly, once in a year, or whatever it is that we are getting certified against. Okay, now what that does for us in an organization is that it will gradually and in a very rapid manner actually increase our efficiency when it comes to operation. Okay, because we have successfully automated our user provisioning and deprovisioning. We know how to deal with the joiner, the mover, the lever, and the various assets and the sensitive critical assets that those users have, and we're able to build in our just in time, so we don't just allow people to have persistent access, especially when it comes to that privileged credential. We do it in a just-in-time format. Then we will be able to actually build in or implement our least privilege model into that. Now, that ultimately leads us to what I started from by talking about people working remotely. Okay, we want to enable that and we want to do that securely. So IAM will ensure that we have given secure access, okay, to the internal people. Okay, that's number one. And whether it's a cloud base or whether it's hosted in our data center, we want to make sure that we grant them access that is secure from anywhere around the world, and they do their work without any downtime also. So we want to make sure that everyone is working efficiently. Now, the last thing I want to discuss is the best practices. Okay, you probably have been implementing a couple of these ones. I like to simplify it for us to say number one is, let's make sure whatever we do in our cybersecurity strategy is that we actually enforce least privilege. Okay, please give the people only the access they need to do their job. Okay, if Isaac doesn't need an access to do any job with a particular credential or particular system or application, please deprovision it. Okay, least privilege, grant users the minimum, very minimum access for their job functions. Now, your PAM will actually enforce that for you by ensuring that your privilege access is tightly controlled, right? And you're able to provide it when it is required. Number two is very simple also, enable MFA. Okay, multi-factor authentication. And by that, I'm not saying the traditional MFA. Go a step further. Go to biometrics where the system supports it. Okay, go to risk-based contextual MFA. The system you should be having today is not that Isaac wants to authenticate to a server and then he has a username and password and then some MFA system sends him a token. No, if your system supports things like Isaac is connecting from Nigeria, Lagos, for example, right? And then what happens if he's connecting from the United States? What happens if he's connecting from Ghana? Okay, it should be different, risk aware of your environment. Okay, now when you do that, you will gradually be able to enforce that just in time and just enough access, okay? Because it's clear with those ones, we will be getting to the close point of saying we have our continuous monitoring and audit intact, okay? Now, the final thing I want to leave us with is my key takeaways. For your IAM and your privileged access management, look at this tool as actually foundational to your cybersecurity program. I am careful by using the word program. Cybersecurity is not a project, sirs and Mars, okay? It's a program because organization exist, they get new systems, they get new people, they get new applications, which means you are in that cycle as long as the organization exists. So it's a strategy to first of all look at it from a program perspective, synergize the two, build a foundation, and grow your organizations that way. Number two is that integration between those two controls actually would unlock the full potential and make your life as an organization secure, easy, and fast. And last but not the least is that this will begin with, first of all, I have a strategy and I have a roadmap. I have a blueprint. This is where I want my organization to go. This is where we can go. And this is how we can measure our growth strategy. Okay. It's very important. Very, very important. Let it come from top. And then you are able to get all the necessary support from the bottom and build it. Okay. So I'm going to draw the curtain for this conversation here. Excellent. I think we probably, I'm not sure if there are questions we can check. Felicia, do we have questions or some discussions to do?
Thank you so much, Isaac. I think it's been a very, very amazing topic. What I'm going to do is we are going to have questions, but I'm going to push the questions to be towards the end because I want us to quickly go to the next topic so that we are able to cover what we need to cover. I would say a massive, massive thank you to you for making identity and access management and privilege access management very, very simple, right? I'm sure if my 10-year-old was in this webinar, by now she would understand all the jargons that mom has been saying. So thank you so much. Key things that I took out from your conversation is the fact that 80% of successful cyber attacks are related to credential theft. And then another buzzword that has come out is IAM plus PAM synergy. I have my notes, but I would want to go straight to it shows you that we gained a lot. So I'm going to talk about the 4 key things that I got from what you said at the end of the whole program. That's to make people, wait to the very end. So I'll quickly move into the next topic, right? Thank you so much, Isaac. And our next speaker is someone that I would say, based on his industry experience, I should be registering to be tutored by him. And he's no other person than Louis Nwokoloh. The reason why I say that is he's a highly accomplished AI product consultant. There are a lot of people in the industry now that have these things in their title. And when you ask them questions, they can't answer. Left alone come to a webinar that is open and live and not pre-recorded to be able to talk his stuff. And this is because Louis has actually worked in very well-known organizations. He's worked in Avon, he's worked in the banking industry, he's worked in HSBC, he's worked in Experian, he's worked in Equifax. In fact, when I was reading it, there's so much, right? But I've taken the companies where I myself have applied and was not given an offer to specifically call off that names. So it's amazing to have him with us here. And he's going to be going into a deep dive around the AI technology. And he's going to be presenting the topic around exploring the impact of artificial intelligence on cybersecurity roles, which is quite key. So I'll have him here to talk about that. He will be leveraging on his experience, real life experience, to be able to tell us, so that we as cyber professionals can be prepared and also can be proactive about our careers. So I will hand it over to Louis to go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Felicia, for that warm introduction. Hopefully everyone can still hear me.
Yes, we can. We can.
Oh, fantastic. I wasn't sure. Okay,
Yeah.
So good day, everyone. Hope we're all doing good. Nice Saturday today. Hopefully we would make it worth your while for being tuned in today. It's great always presenting these sort of things, because I do love tech, and I do love cutting edge stuff. Thanks to Sycom for this opportunity. I know you've been doing great work helping professionals become more relevant in their profession. So hopefully this will be another extra tool in their toolbox. Can everyone confirm that they can see my screen, please?
I can.
Oh, great. So my topic today is AI and me. How artificial intelligence is changing cybersecurity jobs. Now, I'll be looking at this from the point of view of how it impacts your career directly, what AI is. I wouldn't really be going into the details of AI, but I'll be talking about broadly how AI impacts cybersecurity, and most importantly, how it impacts your career and where you're looking to go in the cybersecurity profession. Now, when AI is able to commit 25 million fraud in a single phone call, then you know that certainly is a wake-up call for everyone. And I just wanted to bring this to life, to something that's most relevant in where we are today. Now, for those who may not be aware, the Marks and Spencer retailer has been under cyber attack for the past over 2 weeks now. Predominantly, they've stopped online orders since the 21st of April. And currently, their online website is still not back. They're still not able to take orders online since April the 21st. So far, they've lost 678 million from their stock portfolio. 200 workers have been sent home, not being able to work because the systems are down, so they were sent home. And currently, they're losing 3.5 million daily, while their online platform is off. $3.5 million losses daily. And that online platform has been off since April the 21st till as we speak. All right. So that's just to help you bring to mind, what the effects of these sort of attacks could do. In the same week as well, we've had Harrods suffering some detriment to their online payment system. We had Co-op having such challenges with the attack that they had to tell people, the staff members in the meetings, to verify themselves in their teams meetings, because they were not, who showed that the attackers were still within the infrastructure. So that just shows you the scale. In less than 2 weeks, we've had the number of retailers in the UK significantly impacted by an attack. So it just helps. Hopefully, that helps bring it to life. So let's move on quite smoothly to the AI specific elements of this. In 2019, a simple deepfake was used to carry out a scam of 243K. That was the first really main known AI influenced attack that we came to know. And then in 2024, we had 25 million scammed using deepfake. Again, AI being used to orchestrate the attack. The one in Hong Kong was most shocking because in that one, they used AI deepfakes to orchestrate an entire video call, a meeting. And the finance person thought she was talking to her fellow team members, including the CEO, in that meeting. And in that meeting, she got approval, as she thought, to transfer out $26 million in a meeting. And it turned out that everyone on that call was deepfake. An attempt was made for WWP, but that failed. But again, it just helps bring to mind some of the attack surfaces that we are currently seeing orchestrated by AI. I don't know how many of you have used things like ChatGPT, Claude AI. Now, in April 2025, this month, Claude, which is an LLM tool, was used to orchestrate a large-scale attack using AI. So Claude was attacked, infiltrated, and they used Claude to send out propaganda. They used Claude to deceive, to influence people. They used Claude to send out fake news. So it's not only are individuals being impacted, but these AI tools themselves can be compromised and used to do large-scale attacks. Now, previously, when we used to deal with, in the past, when we used to deal with vulnerabilities, you were dealing with somewhat limited attacks. But now with AI, you can have simple, crazy scale. And that takes us to what, just a quick follow on to what my good friend Isaac had talked about identities. He talked a lot about the IAM and the PAM. But now with AI, we are now faced with a different type of identity landscape. And that identity landscape is growing at a crazy rate. At the moment, as we speak, we have 82 machines for every one human worldwide. That's 82 identity machines for every one human in the world. And then 42% of those have privileged access or sensitive access. And many of those machines don't have MFA protection. So the attack surface is growing at an alarming rate. And let me even bring it to life even more. Just this week, Visa, the people who supply your cards, your bank cards, announced that they shortly will be issuing what they call agent cards, agent Visa cards. So AI agents would have their own Visa cards that they will go out on the internet and buy stuff on your behalf. So just imagine how vast the attack surface is even going to grow with all these new agents coming into play and doing stuff for us. So it's definitely a growing concern and a growing space. So we have an AI's arms race where we have, of course, the attackers on one side and us as the defenders on the other side. Now, the attackers are now empowered by AI to do massive reconnaissance. So what do I mean? For social engineering attacks, they need to know a lot of information about their target. And AI is enabling them through natural language processing to do this at scale never seen before. They can also automate the malware creation. Now, what's even scary about the malware creation is that because these are AI powered, they are dynamic and they can learn and they can adjust and they can then evolve according to how the target is reacting to them. So that malware is becoming intelligent and taking a life of its own. Of course, deepfake social engineering. it's one huge area where we've seen a lot of AI being used to create so many attacks. And then they can, of course, adapt their attack patterns depending on how the defenders are reacting. Now, from our side of the fence, as defenders, as well as cybersecurity professionals, AI threat detection, AI has enabled us or will enable us to be able to detect these threats at scale, and not just to detect these threats at scale, but also to take action to counter that threat. There is also the predictive security to be able to predict it, and most importantly, behavioral analysis. Now, there are tools today that use AI to understand your profile as a user. So when they understand your profile as a user using AI, if that profile changes fundamentally, that tool will then react, take action, maybe temporarily block your access or restrict your access or flag up an alert to say, this profile on this system is now behaving out of character. And then the tool is able to respond to that and take action. So that's where we are now getting the added benefits for our point of view as defenders. Some specific actions that we are seeing play out in the industry is automated data collection. The ability for us to be able to scan and observe the entire web for information, for intelligence, for checking for those potential threats, not waiting for the threat to come to us, but scanning the web, scanning the information. For example, if you were a retailer and you had this tool, this automated data collection, and then it's doing that scan, and then he observes that a fellow retailer, M&S, has been attacked, immediately it starts coming up with a counter plan for your own retailer, because he knows we are fellow retailers. One data point. Two, we share the same suppliers. Another data point. Three, we are in the same geographical location. So it builds that picture, and based on that picture, because of all these data points it's taking in, it's able to create a plan to help us proactively protect our assets before we are hit by the attack. And then large pattern recognition. If you've been familiar with any of this cybersecurity analysis or data collection, in the past, before AI, we used to collect this insane amount of information that we couldn't do anything with. It just sits there. Sometimes we have to delete it. You collect these logs. The logs are just there, and there's valuable information in them, but the sheer amount of data does not allow us to really do much with it. But now with AI, it can, at scale, analyze those data, analyze that information, and then establish connections and patterns, and then help us proactively get better at protecting our estate. And behavioral analysis I talked about before, where the tool observes the behavior of the user over time. They already know how that particular user uses the system, and so when there's a deviation from it, it's also expected to take some initial action. So it doesn't wait for you as a human. It takes some initial counter actions to help mitigate that threat, or at least contain it, while to give the human time to then go in, investigate, and then hopefully, if it's nothing, then we can recall it. But if there's something to be looked at, then they can take action. And then also prioritize those threats. Now, again, in the past, we used to be inundated with false positives. Being able to assess what was truly a problem and what was not something for us to be worried about was something that was quite challenging. But today, with AI, we're able to do that at scale. At scale. Remember that word all the time when you think about AI, at scale. So what's the skill transformation? So what's in it for you? Yes, we've covered what the current threats are. We've given an example of existing threats. We've talked about some ways that the tools are leveraging AI, both for attack and for defense. So does that mean that my skill set as a cybersecurity professional is now obsolete? No. What that means is that your cybersecurity skill today is a base layer for us to start from. So that skill set that Sycom is providing you is fantastic. It gives you that base layer on which we're now going to layer on AI on top of. Manual log review was something we used to be part of our traditional security analysis. That will now be obviously automated. AI threat detection, being able to automate the pattern recognition. And then again, I talked about AI-driven containment, which is where we are now able to actively take action and not just receive that information, but the AI is able to take automated and autonomous action to react to that issue. Now, for AI governance, this is one key one that has come out that is completely new. It covers a number of areas. So you've got ethics within that, you've got bias within that, you've got new frameworks that needs to be set up to govern how we manage the data, new frameworks that needs to come to govern how the agents are supposed to act and who will be responsible for the actions that they take. So there's a lot of that going on at the moment, and the EU is taking a lead on that to help shape a lot of those discussions. So the skills transformation, so you layer on, like I said, you layer on your traditional security analysis skills, and on top of that, we build on your AI skill set. Your AI tool set is what you layer on top of that. Now, the question then would naturally be, what sort of opportunities are we looking at? How big is this likely to be? Is this going to be such a niche product that I really don't need to worry about because it's only going to be done by a few niche people? But no, AI would impact every single role across the cybersecurity landscape. As you can see from the money that's being thrown into it, currently is at 22 billion, and it's looking to grow to 134 billion by 2030. 82% of companies are actively investing in AI security because they realize that if it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when you're going to be targeted by these AI attack tools. So they're investing heavily in that, which means that they need people to be able to support them in those activities. And that is where you and I come in to be able to have those skill sets to be able to support and take a part in this huge security market shift. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. You are getting in very early now, and I would encourage everyone to really look into this because the sky is literally the limit. Again, think about scale whenever you think about AI. So we talked about the governance and ethics previously, but I want us to focus on that really more importantly on this slide because it is an emerging area. The first enforcement from the EU AI Act started from February 2025. It's going to be a phased approach, which means it's so new that they themselves are trying to figure it out, and which means that they need people like you to help them figure it out. And so the first enforcement is February 2025. There will be another one that will come in that came in this April, and there'll be another one in August of this year, another one in April next year, and another one in August of 2026. Now, these things are being currently thought through. If for those of us who were part of GDPR and how GDPR came to be and was shaped, you'll be familiar with this sort of approach from the EU. And so It's an evolving place, and we'll get to know more as they release the laws. But for cybersecurity professionals, it's important that you are part of this, because this will be something that you need to bake into your governance framework as you work as a cybersecurity professional. Now, shadow AI. A lot of companies, a lot of individuals are using AI in their day-to-day work. Some of them not owned by the company, some of them not managed by the company. And so 1/3 of this company have unauthorized AI tools. I'm sure there are people on this call that have used, one form of AI tool or the other that wasn't bought by the company that they work for. And so that shadow AI niche is somewhere that, there's a struggle and a challenge. Some companies have done a blanket restriction. They just set their parameters to break out and cut out every AI tool. And some businesses, they allow it. So your role as cybersecurity must be that you must lead this AI governance. You will be expected to provide guidance. You will be expected to provide recommendations. You will be expected to approve AI-related projects or AI-related systems, and so or support them from a cybersecurity point of view. So you really must be up to date on governance and the ethics regarding AI management. The last one is about bias, explainability, and accountability. The challenges around that. One of them is the bias. The data that's being used for training these AIs, some of them are historic data that contain inherent bias, either because of the group of people who created them or because of the data that was used to create them. You need to be mindful of that. You need to check for that, because you cannot claim ignorance if that happens to be a part of the data that's used for your AI initiative. Explainability. If you work in highly regulated industries, which have financial services, for example, you must be able to show every action that was taken, the source of that action, who did that action, who authorized that action. That needs to be auditable. When we deploy AI into the wild, then we need to be able to make sure that every action the AI takes is auditable, is referenceable, and is clear what the approval process was before that happened. And then accountability, who's responsible, of course, for an AI's action. It needs to be clearly spelled out and detailed in your framework, or expected as security professionals to be part of that discussion. So you need to own the governance, you need to own the future, and you need to do that responsibly. Okay? And as cybersecurity professionals, you need to help your organizations to protect themselves from either reputational risk or vulnerability risk. Okay, so I just wanted us to look at some of the, how quickly, I want us to see how quickly AI has come, and how much progress or compounding progress AI has experienced from just recently as 2022. Now, 2022 was when ChatGPT launched test generation, where we were able to, they were able to do basic prompts or text completion. And then fast forward to 2024, early 2024, we then started seeing agentic AI making decisions. So agentic AI are autonomous agents that are able to take action. They can work autonomously. So, my background, I used to work with RPAs, workflows. I used to create them very long time ago. And then you had to literally tell the tool every single step that it will take. Now, contrast that to what we have today. That agentic AI, with just a few basic prompts or instructions you give to it, it can understand the context, it can act autonomously on its own, it can understand the context that you're inferring, and it does all of that. And then in 2025, what do we have? We have what is called vibe coding. I don't know, it's just a frame, a manner of speaking that people use to describe the way that people are able to generate code on their own. So there are tools now where you just input your prompts and it can generate a website, it can generate a SaaS tool, it can generate all sorts of things for you. Now imagine that code that was generated. Imagine that code being generated with inbuilt security flaws. And then that code is now being used in your company, right? So the ability for you to be able to assess, because like it or not, those tools will come into your infrastructure at some point in time. And so you must be able to deal with such systems. You must be able to handle such scenarios in effectively where you're still supporting the business, because we must remember we're there to support the business. We're supposed to help them to fulfill on their business goals, which means that when they come up with these ideas, we must as security professionals be able to understand what needs to be done, what the challenges are, and propose solutions to continue to protect the business. Now, AI capabilities double every 6 months. Conservatively, it does more than that, but conservatively, every 6 months. Right. So the new defense arsenal. So where are we going with all of this? 3 key areas I want you to think about. Speed advantage. AI detects threats 10 times faster than traditional methods. Automated response to 80% of attacks without human intervention. 80%. It can see the attack, respond to it, contain it, take some actions, take some preemptive actions, and then it can invite the human in the loop to come and take over the last 20%. But at least we get a first response that enables us to be safe while we get a human into the picture. It also has huge predictive power. We'll have to leverage that. It prevents breaches rather than reacting to them. So think about the other example I gave where you're doing active intelligence gathering and using that active intelligence gathering to make recommendations and then act on them and then bring your human in the loop to come in and then sign off on them. So it does that information gathering. So the predictive behavioral analysis. What is the system doing? Who's this profile? What are they like? What has changed about them? All of that. And then the last frontier will be where we have AI versus AI. Attack versus defense. And then humans being more of orchestrators rather than the ones actually doing the work. So what are some of those career roles that are now available as a result of AI? So of course, the first one is the AI security analyst, which is basically you, but empowered by AI, which means you know the AI tools, you know the AI governance rules, you know the capabilities of the various AI, you know how to use the AI tools to protect and add value to your existing skill set. And then you also have the machine identity specialist, because someone needs to manage this huge sprawl of machine identities that will only continue to grow. And then lastly, the AI governance lead. AI governance lead is those who are involved in developing governance framework for responsible AI use. This involving legislation that's coming from the EU, for example. This is something that someone like this would manage. They would own it, they will understand it. Again, think if you were part of the implementation years ago of GDPR, you understand what we're talking about. We didn't have what we called a DPO then, but with GDPR, we came to have a DPO officer, same as what we're having now with AI governance. We need someone who will be responsible for the frameworks, understand the ethics, understand the bias, understand how to make sure that we are not building or using AI in any way that is negative or detrimental to any person. So the future, or shall I say where we are today, is human and AI securing tomorrow. AI has its strengths, humans have their strengths. There's no need us trying to do what the AI is good at or trying to get the AI to do what we are good at. AI is great as data processing. You can never process data as fast or as huge as AI would do. They're great at pattern recognition. They're great at speed, the speed with which they will act. You wouldn't be able to act that way quickly. Automation, they can automate things very quickly. Consistency, they can do a repetitive action over and over and over again without any mistakes. Humans, as you know, sometimes you can be tired, sometimes you're bored, sometimes you're distracted, and those things can affect your consistency. But where we thrive as humans is our context of understanding. Being able to see two different things and understanding the context between them. Being able to to make a difference between what is good and what is not good. Ethical judgment, right? Creativity. We're able to think up new things that have not been previously thought about. And that's something that humans are really good at, and machines are not quite good at. Strategy. We're great at strategy. And also, lastly, empathy. That's something no machine would ever have. And so what we need to do as humans is focus on those areas where we have our key strengths, while leveraging AI's key strengths to augment our roles. And so you'll not be competing with AI, you'll be supervising, and that means you will be basically an AI orchestrator. You will be organizing or supervising a set of AI tools or a set of AI agents that are doing work on your behalf, and that will come to you for where they need your decision, your judgment, your empathy, your context of understanding, and those areas where you have your strengths. And so lastly, I've got this suggested 90-day transformation for someone who says, okay, great, Louis, I get the point. But how do I start? How do I, make myself relevant for this day and age? First thing is an AI security assessment. You need to do your personal skills gap, complete an AI fundamentals course, then join an AI security community. You're already here. So you're in Sycom, which means you're already in the right place to get that support. And then take an initiative, take an AI security initiative. Felicia was talking about the labs they're doing. Go to Felicia and say, okay, yeah, how can we apply this to, or how can we, this thing we do manually, how can we get AI to do it? That's what they have the labs for, to explore those sort of things. So go to them and try and leverage the abundant facilities you have in Sycom to be able to test out or practice your AI skill sets. And of course, with support from the leadership team here, you'll be able to become a pro in no time. So lastly, strategic choice, just to recap what we've talked about. First of all, traditional security is a reactive role. It's diminishing in value. So what I mean by diminishing in value, those things that used to be the things that you used to do, those can be farmed off to AI now, and then we can now focus on the things that really you're good at. Obsolescence, career stagnation, AI enhanced security, so you have to have proactive leadership for that. And then there's also increasing value in those who know how to use or interact with AI. And then lastly, by being part of the AI revolution today, you'll become strategic leadership, and that choice determines your career trajectory. Those who were part of digital transformation many years ago, you saw how those who were in early on digital transformation built a career that just went up to the right because they were in early, particularly around mobile. right? And so my suggestion to you today is that we now have another inflection point with AI, where if you get in early, it's up and to the right quite quickly. So because there are few people who really know these things. There are few people. Most companies are trying to figure it out. No one has all the answers, and so that's where you would come in. So I think that's all from me. Try to keep it brief so that I don't take up your time. But
amazing.
yeah,
Really, really, really amazing. I don't even know. I'm short of words because you touched a lot of main points. Some points very passionate about AI governance and the fact that that particular role is expanding, per hour. Let me put it that way. And I think I like the fact that you've shown progression of when we started with just ordinary weak, what we call weak AI, which is ChatGPT. And now we've moved into agentic AI, and they are fastly, there's rapid development in the general purpose AI and even AI in robotics. So we can speak about that for so long. I think we've had a fantastic session. I want to appeal, Abdul, if I can appeal, can we just have additional 10 minutes for questions? And if everybody is happy, we've got quite a big crowd. If everybody is happy, we can take a few questions. But what I've done while we were on the call is to capture key points that have been spoken about. And then I've also put QR codes that would lead directly to the LinkedIn page. For GDPR, I didn't take your consent, Isaac and Louis, but I'm sure
it's
you're not going to
public
find me.
information anyway, so it's public
Yeah,
information. So. It's public information.
So the QR code is very easy for you to just scan it. Don't worry, even if I did it on the fly, I tested it that it's not going to take you to Abdul's account. It's the genuine account it's going to take you to. Okay. But I think if you're going away from this webinar, this 7 or 8, I can't remember, 2, 4, 7 quotes or 8 quotes should be something that should be ringing. So I'm going to open it up for questions. Abdul, is it okay for us to quickly take about 3 or 4 questions? I've got Ayo, who's on.
Sure, yeah. As long as everyone is happy to be here, I think we should go for it.
There's a lot of enthusiasm. Ayo is already raising his hand. So can someone unmute Ayo to ask the question, please? Is he able to ask the question? Can someone unmute him?
Yes, my mic's working now.
Okay,
first
hi
of all,
Ayo, welcome. Yeah,
thank you. First of all, I want to appreciate both of the speakers. They spoke very well. I've been hearing a lot about PAM, IAM, but then Isaac, I think, really explained it very well for me. Now I have like a proper understanding, like the foundational knowledge. So yeah, thank you for that, and Lewis as well. But my question right now is directed to Lewis. So he made mention of how AI is really affecting is happening exponentially, and then as security personnel, it's very important for us to I would say it's possible to match the growth, but it's important to like catch up with the speed. So my question is, how exactly can we leverage AI? What are there certain tools we can start learning with? And for people who are also job searching, like for example myself now, how exactly can we position ourselves in such a way that we would have that advantage per se? Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's a really
Thank
good
you,
question. Thanks, Ayo, for that. So first of all, I would say your information diet would be the first thing I would say. The reason why I've said that is AI is accelerating so fast that things change in a matter of weeks. I'm not exaggerating it. Things change in a matter of weeks. And so what you know could become obsolete in a matter of weeks. And all the big players are updating their existing tool set to be AI ready. So think about CyberArk, think about SailPoint, think about Okta, CrowdStrike, Zscaler. All of them, Entra ID, Microsoft, They're all updating their tool sets every single week to add new AI features. And so you just have to keep on it. Now, secondly, I know Sycom is doing a good job trying to get things together for AI readiness and all of that. I'm sure they'll be able to support in that area as well. And so that's what I would say. I would say try and get a project in Sycom that would work specifically on AI. The reason why I'm saying do it specifically here is two reasons. One, you'll have experienced professionals to guide you, because you have to start from the basics first before you can then evolve. So let me give you an example. You see, Isaac talked about IAM and PAM. He talked about IAM and PAM. Once you understand IAM and PAM, it's easy for you then to move on to machine identity. AI identity. Right? You layer that on top of it. So Felicia and Abdul, I'm sure, will put something together and help you guys to get started specifically on leveraging AI on top of the skills they're already coaching you on.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was a spot on answer. I like buzzwords. One buzzword that he mentioned that I think you should put in your dictionary is information diet, which is really, really important. I think you should put that in. And I think also to throw some reality into what he just said. My doctorate is in AI, and I started September last year, and my topic has changed like 7 times because the industry has changed. So very frustrating. I'm thinking of writing, changing my doctorate research to maybe plants, because that is quite static. So that's an example of how it is changing. Yeah. So thank you so much for that, Louise. I'm very, very grateful. So I've got another hands up. Osaragwe, can someone unblock Osaragwe to actually ask his question? You're on mute. I think you've been unblocked, but you're on mute. Can you go off mute and ask your question?
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I really want to appreciate two speakers. It has been a very wonderful and interesting session for me. My name is Osaragwe Nezena, and I'm a backend developer. And I recently delved into cloud engineering. And when Isaac was making mention about IAM and PAM, it was very interesting for me because that's exactly what I'm doing right now. So, and I'm really very interested in cybersecurity. I've been working on backend and mobile app development. And recently, because of this year, they said 2025 is the year of agents at Microsoft. So I've been following up, last month, they created a program for learning how to use agents. And I've been on that part. And I don't know if any other person has this, my challenge. I want to know what it would take as a software developer who has no foundation in cybersecurity. What do you think? What would you advise that I may be able to learn, undertake, or start doing to be able to jump into cybersecurity from a software engineer perspective?
Thank you for that. Isaac, would you start first? Because he mentioned your IDAM and your PAM, and then we'll go to Louis also.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, sir, for that question. So first of all, I'd like to congratulate you because you're in the right place. Okay. And second, you've already started. Okay. Being in the tech space, it's already you have one leap into that game, number one. And so cybersecurity, breaking into cybersecurity, there are no single formula that fits everyone. Okay. But what you can start again, thank you, Mr. Louis, with that word information diet. Now, it starts from what you already have the interest, my friend. Okay. All you need is a structured program. Sycom is the best partner with you now. We'll be able to advise you because there is need for you to know what you need, because we're in the information data age. There's a lot. You literally can become, I wouldn't call the profession, okay, from YouTube, for example, okay, but don't just go and experiment on live data set or human being if you choose the medical line. So number one is you need to have a structured program. I believe Sycom has an amazing, outlines that could help you. We could get in touch after now together with the team at Sycom. We would be able to assist you with a program. Number one, there are some trainings, my friend, that you must have. Okay. Number one is that training. I am not saying we should be chasing around certificates, okay? It's very important because then you will need to, it will give you the door, it will open the door that you have something upstairs. But I think Felicia mentioned something very important when she was doing her introduction is the hands-on experience, not reading concept from book.
Yeah.
With the Sycom labs coming in, there are other platforms that Sycom would probably be you know collaborating with. Please, you are at the right place. I think you should continue this conversation. You will need structured training. You will need some courses to take to open up your mind. From today, what you should be doing is as you go about development, think about what we call secure coding. Okay.
Yes.
So if you have, for example, in your applications, think of vulnerability. Don't just think I want to write a code that will show this application interface and it will be nice when someone clicks and see data or provide information. Think about what happens when someone clicks. Think about the traffic. Is it encrypted? Those basic things. It will start from the CIA triad actually. Everything you do, look at it from an aspect of confidentiality, integrity, and of course the availability. But I think the broader conversation will come in when you get in touch with Sycom. You would be guided. I think I should allow Louis say something here. Thank you.
Yeah, you've dealt with it quite thoroughly, Isaac. Thanks for that. I think what I would add is this: you're already in a good place being a backend engineer. What I would suggest you do is for every project that you write or for every project you work on at work, there would have been some cybersecurity professional reviewing that. Go
Yes.
to them and let them give you what they look for.
Yes.
Most of the time, I know I fall victim to that sometimes because I want to move fast, and you always tend to leave the cybersecurity to the end. But if you bake it in from the start, it's usually an easier conversation by the time you get to the end of your delivery. So
Yes.
go to them and tell them to provide you with what they want to see, what checklists they run through, what things they look out for, what things that they need to see for them to approve your project, and then use that as a guide, in addition to what Isaac has already said. But this is something you can practice at work starting from Monday.
Excellent answer. I'm going to just add also, you're in a good place because you're a developer. Louis mentioned something around policies and standards, which are security policies and standards that organizations have, right? The governance guys, what they do is they would interpret those regulations, security frameworks, blah, 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 put it in security policies and standards. But I've been in this industry for over 30 years to know that developers don't read policies and standards. That's a disclaimer. But it's a good place to start. If you're building anything, even if it's a web page, read the policies and the standards to say this, there are guidelines of what they need, what you need to have in that technology stack. And again, I know our two guests have spoken so much about Sycom. What I'm sharing on the screen now, not the QR code on the left, the one on the right will take you straight to Sycom's website, right? So you would be able to be in touch with Sycom's website. Then also that information diet, we have two massive speakers who are very active on their LinkedIn, which means they write what they see, they talk about things that are happening in the industry. Follow them in case you can't I mean, the two handsome young men that I'm talking about here, right? Meanwhile, LinkedIn is a professional site, so please follow them for the right reasons, and then also make sure, their articles will tell you what is going on in the industry, right? And then also we have Sycom on the right-hand side. We are also very, very active on LinkedIn, giving you up-to-date information and stuff like that. And then the lady on the right-hand side, my final thoughts today, before I hand over to Abdul, so that he can invite me next time, is cybersecurity is not just a job, it's a mission. The gaps need to be closed. So I don't know what is interesting in cyber. There's money, there's whatever. Make sure you have a mission, because if the purpose of something is not known, abuse is inevitable. I will hand over to Abdul for his final notes, and then thank you so much for listening to us.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Felicia, for really anchoring this for us. It's really, in fact, I learned a lot as well. And Louis can tell we were involved in an IDEM project years back at Equifax, right? And after the breach, we restored Equifax back. And I think that was 2017 or 18, is it? 2017, I think. Yeah. So we did some implementation there. And that was where we met. And since then I think our love as brothers had really grown. And as well, Isaac, wow, it's really great to listen to you and the wealth of knowledge you've got around this area. And I'm definitely going to come back, keep a close eye on you, and pick your brain more offline, right? So I will do that. And thank you for everyone that joined this. You spent your time to listen to this program. And we intend to do this more often. And it's actually aimed to build a community and to help everyone grow. So if you come for this program, you'll learn. And I'm glad at least we got one or two confirmations that, they learned a lot from this. And I believe others as well did learn. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to bore you all with so much. We're about 22 minutes off. So I will apologize, and I would like to thank you all as well for coming, for joining, and have a lovely, go and enjoy the sun. I think it's bright outside. Please, let's go and enjoy the sun and have a lovely day today.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.